Hi there, Randy Green here, and welcome to one of the Whole Academy videos. In this one, I want to do a little bit of overview and explanation of walk in, step in, and walk back, because these are not the same things. These are three different things that are happening on our planet, so to speak. We all we know walk-in. That was something that came up in the 70s and the 80s. I remember text material or books from the 80s talking about walk-ins. And walk-ins are typically when you have an original template, an original energy system that is born into a human form or merged into a human form and come into beingness inside this reality, to put it in a little bit of different wording. And that original template and energy system, or technically it's the template itself, that for reasons and purposes is not either, it is not functional because it has been replicated in the wrong way, or it is not working in alignment with the bio-DNA as it's supposed to. It is not of the use of whoever is having this human within their projects. And therefore, the decision has been made to extract the template and collapse the levels of the energy system that is connected to the template, although not the lower fields, as in kind of the mental field, the emotional field, and the biofield. And then it can be decided to put in another template and another energy, a higher order type of energy system. And we're not here typically talking about the benevolence or the ones that are what we used to call as benevolent races, but more or less the ones that are utilizing specific organic vessels to produce specific type of genetics. And I know this is the cynical version. If you want the prettier version is that a soul that has incarnated decides that it doesn't want a continuous incarnational process, and therefore it sheds off its organic form, and then it vacates it because the organic vessel is technically still viable. The emotional field, the mental field, the biofield is functional. But the whatever has integrated itself into that organic vessel do not want to occupy it anymore. And this goes a little bit with the understanding of Michael Newton's books, with the destiny of souls and the journey of souls, these books where he talk about a specific type of race that are inserting portions of its working consciousness into the host body that already has a personality structure, but inserts this one and then becomes its quote unquote soul, or a higher self that is then coexisting in the organic vessel with the original consciousness structure of that physicality. And you must here understand that technically we do have humans on this planet that are only composed of a mental field, emotional field, and a biofield that has no template connected to it, that has no higher order energy system connected to it, and that has, in the older terminology, has no soul attached to it. Again, these are different programs. So when we go the concept in the Michael Newton books, where this is an orb of consciousness units that are inserted and integrated as portions of the working memory into a human body that already has its own consciousness structure. So this is a symbiotic relationship where the quote-unquote soul lodges itself into the brain structure, from where it takes control of the human vessel or coexists with the original either template structure that is actually there, and or completely takes it over and learns lessons or whatever. Is these races that are doing that I don't know how many of them there are left. I have a slight suspicion, probably not many, since this type of soul infusion and co-hosting were some of the older projects that were going on, from the races that just needed to develop specific consciousness traits, get rid of certain consciousness traits as a part of a redemption plan, and thus didn't need to become fully part of a human vessel, didn't need to have a full organic vessel inside this reality, and therefore only separate portions of their working essence or their consciousness structure. This is kind of what you could call the core essence of all life forms beyond our reality field, that the consciousness units can both be in what we call a field, but they are also part of a higher order type of energy system. And these two things combined together, energy and consciousness, creates what we call the working essence, or the light body, or the structure that has the mobility to shift between different forms of organic vessels that are engineered within specific systems. And this is the light body, the working essence, or the soul, or however you want to put it, are some very, very old type of engineered template structures with code systems and an energy system that follows it. But the goal is here to develop that energy system, that's a higher order energy system, using the template, which is the architecture of the consciousness structure you want to achieve, to put it in a little bit technically advanced way of understanding this. And this is what many of us has interpreted as a soul. But the whole understanding of soul within the human culture is an extremely distorted and downsized version of how things actually work. And when we talk about organic vessels, they will always be created of the matter of the reality field, or the organic molecules, all depending on the electromagnetic or density molecules that are in alignment with the reality field. And this is where the ability is to shift in and out of these different compositions of organic matter, from where we can take on life in different systems. And this is not that we are floating around in our energy system and with a template and code sheets as a light being. That is not how it works. We typically in the systems that are working in well, we are developing ourselves out of a different type of organic vessel into a new composition that we alter while we are in a specific type of organic vessel within the same system. And if we are to leave, we will shed off the organic vessel, go through the gate systems in what you could call the light body, and then we will already have an organic vessel ready for us in another system. And that is technically a step in. So the walk-in is where you have an organic vessel that is functional, and it already has a template structure typically, or it has some sort of energy system. And then the co-host decides to leave and another co-host walk in instead. It's kind of, yeah, you can take my dress, I'm done with it, it's still functional, do you want it? It's recycling. Literally, it is recycling. That's the best way, or second hand. That's the best way you can use this. And the incident that typically leads to the walk-in is death. You have the near-death experience. Sometimes it's actually the original one that comes back. It sheds off, it leaves the organic vessel, go back to the realities where it came from, quote unquote, through the tunnel of light. Although if we go with the Michael Newton type of group that did it that way, and then it rearranges its working essence that it has put into the organic vessel. And it is interesting in the We Must All Evolve video where I refer to Jim Sparks. He talked about working essence, and he also talked about how these different races can take portions of that working essence and put it into an organic vessel. And Michael Newton talks about that same thing, that the ones that chooses to put larger amount gets more control of the organic vessel, whereas the ones that chooses to put smaller amounts, they have lesser control of the organic vessel, where they literally are just kind of in the background, and where the host itself lives its life and then is piggybacking, so to speak, and developing its whatever it needs through the experiences of the human, only from time to time giving impressions of what it needs the human to do, and develop and unfold. And this is part of what we call old school co-hosting. So this is what a walk-in is. Or it can also be that as said, kind of the first version of it is kind of that something has malfunctioned between whatever has been inserted, or the the working essence, or if it needs an upgrade, then it can pull out and come back. That's the same personality, it's the same co-host, but it has new portions of information with it. And then we have the other one where a completely different other parallel entity or other parallel extraterrestrial human or humanoid decides to go in and take over the vacant body, so to speak, and pretend or play out to be its higher self, so to speak, but it's still co-hosting with an already existing consciousness structure that typically belongs to another race, which has then been completely sealed off and are completely dormant, but is the correct operator of the organic vessel, but is then being technically taken over by some complete different entity, which then exists within the body as long as possible until it becomes impossible due to too high levels of distortion, because there's not a match between the consciousness structure and the original human form. So this is also some of the side effects of the walk-in. So this is also one of the reasons why it has been a little bit abandoned. But we can also have, as I talked about, the step in as in kind of where you, this is typically by the use of clones, where you can come from a parallel system and you only need to be here for a shorter period of time. And then you can you can literally put in a clone vessel, or you replicate a clone vessel or another organic vessel. And then again, the replicates, they can develop consciousness structure using energy, whereas clones will always remain the same. But a clone is and it will be a clone of some other, is a duplicate of something else. So it is cloned out of the same structure, like, you know, the sheep, Dora, or whatever it was called, that got cloned into its complete similar DNA structure. So this is the understanding of clones. It's a complete similar DNA structure. So they are a complete duplicate of the same DNA. Whereas if you have a replicate, you do the clone technology, but the replicate is able to, because of the insertion of the different consciousness structure, able to develop consciousness units as well as energy system in a different way. So it begins as a clone, but it develops into an individual being eventually. So that is some of the other versions that have been used here as well. So when we talk about a step in, that is, as I also explained in the previous video, is kind of using this clone to align different types of DNA structures, but that is all about developing the original DNA structure into something entirely else. And I know this, where you can say the walk-in is just a matter of existing here and learning lessons, and the working essence is the one that is harvesting the development, whereas the host itself is not developing at all. It's just within the incarnational cycle, repeating its mistakes over and over and over again, because there's no progressing unit in that human or in that energy system, since it's sealed off and is deliberately being used that way as the driving vessel for host systems, or host, not host, but visitors that are coming in and participating in what we call human evolution for reasons and purposes for shorter and longer period of times using different forms of vessel. And you should read Michael Newton's books with this understanding, and you will literally see it there, and not looking at it as a soul from God, but literally look as a specific type of alien race that have used the human vessel as a host body to exist within this system, instead of creating their own organic vessels and the larger technology that goes with that. In that manner, they are not linked up to the racial grid either, so they can literally just come in and go out. And this is also what a walk-in is. It enables them to come and go as they please, and without creating what we call entanglement into the system, or karma, if you like. So this is the rough use of the human vessel that technically has an original operator, but that is completely sealed off and will not gain anything from the repetitive cycles of which its energy system and template is being used to create organic life, or vessels inside this system. So that's an industry, and it literally emanates through between the lines in Michael Newton's books. So read it with that in mind, and you will see what I'm here explaining is actually it's deliberately said there. But most people, when they read the books in the 2000s, they read it from the perspective of souls being from God and all of this very, very nice, neat, spiritual perception of things, and not from a technological, extraterrestrial point of view. So this is just, again, shifting perspective. There are more to the step-ins, but this is what I can give now. And then we have also the walk-backs. And the walk-backs are similar to the step-ins, but the walk-backs are typically, again, you are talking about you have an organic vessel inside this reality, and there's either a replicate, typically a replicate, in a parallel Earth-like system that has been taken from the stem cells of the human inside this system, but has been re-engineered into a separate individuality, which then exists in a parallel Earth-like system, very similar to ours, but typically further into the future. And as these similar Earth-like parallel systems play out their role, some of them are completely artificial, built up within cube systems and alien technology, play out whatever they need to play out in the higher dimension, which has no time and space. Then the replicate is dissolved, but then whatever is left from that replicate will then be transferred back into the original owner, and that is what we could call a walk back. You kind of have a version of yourself inside this system, typically very dormant, and then you have the replicate with a replication of your energy system in a parallel reality, in a higher dimension, in a more advanced society where certain things are played out. And once that learning is done, then it will be transferred in and merged into the original existing human inside this system, and that is typically what sparks to life what we call an awakening process, because suddenly portions of the template will then get a huge upgraded version of itself attached and blended in and integrated, and then integration process is part of what we call the awakening process. So that is some of the things that are also going on when we talk about what makes people wake up, what is happening to them aside from the artificial hyperbolic upgrade using enzymes and enhanced DNA from our own eggs or sperm, which has then been enhanced with different forms of alien genetics, and then being not injected but holographically merged into our original code system and our original DNA structure. So that's another way to upgrade the human genome. So you can kind of say we also had the step-ins and the walk-backs and the walk-ins, very, very similar, but these are different races that are using different technologies, and that is probably what you should derive of this little rant about these three different things, so you have a little bit of a bigger perspective of what is going on with humans around us, and why some humans change overnight, why we technically could say, well, if there was a general interest of a complete upgrading of the entire planet, if we could say all factions could be unified in the understanding that we must all evolve, then the technologies are there. The technologies are literally there to, over a short period of time, 2 to 3 or perhaps 4 years, could upgrade the entire humanity to be able to do the transition. So this is some of the things that you can say is on the table as well in whatever's going on around us, is the whole idea. Get rid of the worst forces that do not belong here. Work with the ones that do want to evolve and the ones that don't want to evolve. Ship them out of here, return them to their own system, shut down whatever commissions and allowances they have here and their trade system, or whatever they feel that they have claims on. Get them out of here, close down these projects. And then whoever is left, okay, how do we upgrade humanity? How do we take this technology and put it in play? And what does it demand of humans of understanding to be able to to work with these integration processes, and which one will be in the understanding of what we would see as beneficial for us and not for the ones that are using their technologies to upgrade us. So this is a complete change of heart from all involved in this system. But these are some of the things that I've been working on, and this is why I can share it with you. I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I'm just saying this is some of the things that are on the table right now. Could we unify in some sort of concord where the agenda is not just survival of the fittest, it's not just about for the few, but actually for the highest good of the many, considering that all of these races that are fighting for their survival, well, further down the line, in other time frames, further down the line in the future, if they don't change their ways, they will become extinct anyways. For them, there are fewer and fewer possibilities of where they could go once the universes around us do their elevation process. And I talk about this elevation process and where they can go and what their options are in the whole integration class 1 to 5. So for now, just a little bit of an overview. There's much, much more to this, but I think this will suffice for now, again, to broaden your perspective a little bit and push you out of the whole soul idea and begin to work much, much more from a scientific angle, because you will need that. Once you truly begin to work with your energy system, your mind must be in a scientific modality where you understand symbols and code systems and how to work with energy, including in your self-healing processes that you will orchestrate yourself and you will engineer yourself, and the ability to read your organic vessel is not just about colors and auras and these kind of things, but actually to read the code systems of your organs, the different code systems of your lower order fields. I talk about the different fields and some of the work that we are to engage with on in the whole integration class 5, where I go over a little bit of the different working levels on and the developmental levels of the different fields. But there's much, much more to this, and this will come in the years to come. Right now, we're just working our way out of the old world order and begin to board the new perception levels of reality, letting go of what was, understanding that that was for a time being, that was part of our evolutionary process. And now we literally, those of us who are working with this, we must step up further and begin to work from a whole other angle of understanding, as well as understanding that the only way forward for any humanity is the understanding of consciousness and energy, and how that can work in other dimensions from a holographic standpoint, with the understanding of vibrations and waves and reading of information and code systems, and how we are affecting that by our very essence and who and what we truly are. Thank you.